How bad is depression? According to one study, people who were parentally depressed saw increased health risks that were equivalent to a non-smoker taking up to a pack a day habit. Essentially, depression is a death sentence, but fortunately, there is hope.
Life can be stressful. Whether you're facing a sudden illness, loss of a job, or the strain of a relationship, sometimes you just feel like giving up. Dutch Sheets is an internationally recognized pastor and author. His book, The Power of Hope, is a practical guide that will help you rise above life's disappointments and troubles.
Charlene Aaron recently spoke with pastor and author Dutch Sheets about his book. It is a practical guide to help you through life's disappointments and troubles. Charlene asked him about the proverb that says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick."
Our emotional and spiritual heart is much like a physical heart. If you have heart disease, if the arteries start getting clogged, you can't breathe as well. You lose your life source. You lose your energy. You can't run. And I tell people it's the same way with a spiritual heart, with your emotional heart. If you have hope deferred, which causes a diseased heart spiritually, you can't run life's race. You don't believe. You struggle to dream. You struggle to believe. You can't even have faith. It's hope. Hope is what starts the process of faith. So you just lose the ability to live. You just exist. You don't really live.
You also say there's a time to grieve and there's a time to hope. How do you know when it's the right time for those attitudes?
Well, you know, I think you have to have help for one thing, but the Bible does talk about grieving God's way. We are not those who grieve as the world grieves. So we do grieve. God made us in a way that we have to release painful emotions. We are emotional people. There's nothing wrong with being an emotional person. It's just that we have to let those emotions bless us, not control us. I tell people when they're trying to find God's will, don't you dare listen to your emotions. They're not made to guide you. They're made to make life exciting and meaningful and make us human. So when we're experiencing the loss of a setback or a loved one or the bankruptcy or the prayer that wasn't answered, that's a time to regroup. It's a time to say, okay, Lord, you're going to help me grieve through this process appropriately, but I'm going to make sure I surround myself with the right people and the right information, that being the scriptures and my connection with the Lord, because you're going to lead me not only through this, you're going to lead me out of this. And you're going to show me when it's time to start dreaming again.
Why do you think it's so easy for people to lose hope?
Well, it's different for every person. Some people, you know, they can go through almost anything. You know, we just looked at a display of Corrie ten Boom. You know, how do you go through what she went through in a prison camp and come out of it with faith? But some of that's because of the way you were trained as a young person. You know, there are people that have so had a faith in God put in them. It's almost like you couldn't steal their hope. But again, there are others that, hey, you know, who knows what they walked through? Their background, the rape, the abuse. They weren't taught about God growing up. We're all different. And some of us are more emotional. God created us more emotional. He needs some people to be fireballs and they're going to be more emotional. He needs other people to be more staid and thinkers. And if you're that emotional person, you're gonna be jarred a little more easily, and your hope is going to be shattered. So we just have to know ourselves. We have to stay connected to the Lord and the right people, so that when the hope is set back somewhat, we don't let a process begin that erodes the heart. We don't let cynicism come in. We don't let fear come in. We stop that process and say, no, I have an anchor in my soul, and it's the Lord Himself.
How do we regain hope in our personal lives and once we've lost it?
Well, it starts with a decision, and that may sound simple, but I tell the story in the book that my brother witnessed an open heart surgery. And when I say witnessed, I mean he was at the head of the patient when they opened the patient, worked on the heart, disconnected it. Then when they put everything back in place, they have to restart the heart, and they couldn't get it going. And he knew he'd watch this person essentially die. But when they had exhausted all of their ways of getting the heart pumping again, finally the head surgeon leaned over to the lady, obviously unconscious, and in her ear said, "Ma'am, I need your help. We can't get your heart to beat. Please tell your heart to beat again. And instantly her heart began to thump, thump. And he looked up at the doctors and the nurses around the table and just went, and they kept working on this. And my brother, he said, I've never forgotten it, because the Lord said to him, that's what you need to do when you've gone through a period of hope deferred, when you've lost that person, when you've lost that marriage, when that bankruptcy happened, when whatever, the economy, wars all around us, there comes a point in time when you're through that grieving process. You have to say to your spiritual heart and your emotional heart, you will beat again.
Amen.
And
Praise
here
God.
we go.
Thank God for you. Well, the book is called The Power of Hope. Dutch Sheets, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you every time you come.
Thank you.
God
Pleasure.
bless
It's
you.
a real pleasure.